Hello, Dave here with RadiationHealthRisks.com. I appreciate you stopping by. This video is actually going to be the first of a series of videos that I'm super excited about. Just to kind of give you a little background information, there's a YouTuber, LDS Prepper. He also has a website, LDSPrepper.com, that I followed for several years. And now that I live in eastern Idaho, I don't live that far from him, and I've been to his place and met him a few times and been to his home. And he lives on a couple acres. He's got an amazing setup if you're into preparedness at all. He has a bunch of solar panels. He produces more than enough solar energy to power his home. Even in the winter, he sends power, I should say, back to the grid. He's got multiple years of propane. He's got thermo heated greenhouses. Anyway, if you're into preparedness at all, go to his LDSPrepper.com. You'll see a link there to his YouTube channel. He's got all kinds of preparedness stuff. Great setup. Well, anyway, one of the times when I met him, we were talking and I was telling him about the harmful effects of EMF radiation and the different kinds. And he did some research on his own, and he became concerned about it. And he contacted me recently and asked me if I would come over and test his home. And so what this series of videos is going to be about is it's going to be about me testing his home and for both dirty electricity and RF radiation. And this first video is going to be about the dirty electricity part. We'll have another video that shortly after this one that will be about the RF radiation. And then the subsequent videos that we're going to do down the road will be as we identified problems that he has in these first couple of videos. Then the follow-up videos are going to be how he corrects those problems. But the first part of the video I want to show you is a clip where David introduced himself to you. Dave, do you want to say anything? Introduce yourself.
Hello, glad to be here. Dave's been here a couple times. We both raise quail and we have chickens and a lot of things in common. He's got a portable off-grid generator like I do, so we're both preparedness minded and health conscious. And so having my home tested for EMF was really important to me, especially since my wife has the router in her office. So I appreciate Dave coming over and sharing this information with you and helping us out. Apparently, and it's throughout the entire house, our dirty electricity is at a possible carcinogen level in every outlet, in every room, upstairs and downstairs. So we need to take a look at that for sure. And then the levels of EMF in my wife's office is literally off the charts. So this is a health concern that I have, and I think we have some possible solutions here. We tested some neighbors' houses also, and I think Dave will go more into the details on that.
Okay, how the rest of this video is going to go is you're going to see us test a bunch of circuits in David's house 3 different times with 3 different scenarios. We wanted to see how different scenarios of David's solar system, how that affected the dirty electricity in his house. The first time that we tested it, the house was being run strictly on battery power. It wasn't getting any power from the power company, the grid, and it wasn't getting any power from the solar panels. Then the second scenario, David turned on the power from the solar panels, and so the house was running off of the power being generated from the solar panels, not from the battery, the backup batteries, and not from the power company, the grid. And then the final scenario, David turns on the grid again, but it's still the middle of the day, so his solar panels are producing way more solar energy than his house needs. And so his inverter, it takes the power comes into the inverter from the power grid, it comes in from the solar panels, and what the inverter does is it makes sure the batteries are charged, and then any excess power coming from the solar panels that the house doesn't need to run the house or to charge the batteries, the inverter sends that out to the grid. And so David gets money back from the power company instead of getting a bill from the power company. Okay, now as you watch, as we go through these 3 scenarios of tests, what you'll notice is during the first set of tests where we were running just off of battery power, you'll see that all of David's circuits range between, I think there's one that's like lower, 7, 8, 900, but most of them are around 13, 14, 1500 on the meter that reads dirty electricity. But on that first series, series of tests, when I put the filter in that's supposed to filter off the dirty electricity, you'll notice it drops down, all the circuits drop down right around the low 50s, which the safe range is considered less than 50. So it gets really close to that, corrected just by those filters that we put in each circuit. In the second series of tests, where David added where we were running off of the solar panels, not off of the batteries. Again, the dirty electricity was around the same on all the circuits, 13, 1400 on most, except for the one that was a little bit lower. But when we put the dirty filter in, you'll notice, the filter to clean the dirty electricity in each circuit, you'll notice that it didn't drop it down to 50. It was in between 1 and 300s, depending on the circuit we were testing. So what we noticed there is that when the inverter was only working to convert the batteries, on the first group of tests, where the inverter was only working to convert the battery power to AC electricity, it caused dirty electricity, but it corrected easier. On the second group of tests, when the DC was working a little bit harder, now it was converting power coming in from the solar panels, plus charging the battery, so it had more tasks to do. Then it produced about the same amount of dirty electricity in all the circuits, but the circuits didn't correct as much when we put the filters in. And then in the final scenario where the inverter was asked to regulate the grid and the power and send the excess power from the solar panels back to the grid, the inverter was working even harder. The fans came on. As we tested the circuits, you'll see that the dirty electricity amounts were similar to what they were on the first 2 rounds. They were slightly higher, and they didn't correct when we put the filters in each circuit. So that's what you're going to see as we go through these series of tests, and we'll talk a little bit more about that after you watch that. Okay, so now we're down with his solar system with his batteries and inverter and everything. And I just wanted to show you this because he's got a solar system in this house, and that's one of the main concerns why we're testing for dirty electricity. So the solar system is on, and so now let's go test the outlets. Okay, so here we are in his living room. So we're going to test his circuit. If you can see down here, we have an outlet, and we're gonna, hopefully the lighting's okay, and we plug that in, and it reads, well, this one doesn't read as high, 953, 959, 980, and then when we plug the filter in to the other part of the outlet, it brings it down to the 180s, 150s, 200s. So that's that one. And that's what you want to do, is just go through each at least one outlet in each circuit in your house. Okay, here we are in Dave's office. We're going to test this outlet here. And hopefully you can see that. Oh, this one's not very high at all. 197 to 200. That's interesting. Okay. That took it down to 50. All right, here we are in the downstairs bathroom, and we'll plug this in and we'll see how it reads. 15 to 1400, and then when we put this in, it takes it right down to the 50s.
And I think we're still on battery power.
Yeah, we're still on battery power, so we'll retest it once it changes. Okay, here we are in Dave's downstairs kitchen. And let's see what it reads. Again, 1600, 1500s, 1400s. And then when we plug in the filter, right down into the low 60s, high 50s.
Okay, still on battery power.
Still on battery
power. So we're on the battery we're on the battery backup array that we have for the solar right now. All right, so what we have set up here, we just want to make sure that you can see, is that, come in close here, Dave. You can see that this is the icon for the grid power, and there is no connection between the grid and the house. So we're running completely on solar power. We're generating 1.5 kilowatts right now, and that solar power is coming in from the panels into the inverter, charging the batteries, and then running the house. And so we have a 1 kilowatt load right now on the property, and we're generating 1.4 kilowatts. So everything that's running in the house right now is running through this inverter and through the solar that we're generating.
So the grid's not connected at all.
Completely disconnected from the grid.
Okay, now running off of solar, here we are back at this. So we want to see what the difference is. 1500, 1400, so high 14s, low 1500s. And we'll test this again. And instead of bringing it down to 50, now it brings it down to the 200s when we're on solar. Okay, here we are back in the downstairs bathroom. And it's up 1300s, 1400s. And when we put the filter in, it brings it down to the high 100s.
And before it brought it down to 52 or something like that.
Yeah. So having it on solar running through that inverter does add a little more to the dirty electricity. So okay, here we are back at the upstairs kitchen. So let's see how that reads. Again, low 1500s, high 1400s, and then putting the filter in there.
Definitely drops it.
Definitely drops it, low 300s. Okay, here we are back in Dave's office. And I can't read it. 1200, 1300. So between low 1300s, high 1200s. And then with the filter, we're running in the low hundreds. Okay, here we are again in the upstairs living room. And this one never reads quite as high. 700s. And then with the filter on it, down into the low 200s.
And before, if I remember, it dropped it down to 52 or something like that. So there's definitely, this circuit is different. This circuit is definitely different from the other circuits, but still, there's a problem when we're running off solar versus running off grid power. Yeah,
sounds like a 2-300 difference.
All right, you can hear the inverters running. If you come over and take a look, we're generating 6.6 kilowatts of solar power. We're now selling 5 kilowatts to the grid. Our load here on the property is 1.9 kilowatts, and you can see that there's a little arrow pointing back to the grid. So the grid is now connected, but the power from the grid and the power from the solar panels are coming into the inverter. The inverter determines where to send the power from the charge controllers, from the solar and the grid, and then we're powering that power to the house. So everything is coming through this inverter right now and see if the inverter makes a difference on how clean or dirty the power is. I'm thinking that it's probably a wiring issue with this house that was a builder build, and there may be some not so good grounds or some things messed up that's causing the incredibly high, very concerning ratings on the meters that you see.
Yeah, you're getting some from the solar panel, but the excessiveness is probably coming from electrical problems.
Yeah, because we've seen, depending on which circuit, right, that there was a big difference, and I think it has to do with how the wiring was put in.
Yeah, okay.
So I'm actually going to have an electrician come and take a look and do some testing through my house. We may have to rewire the house. Okay, so here we are again in the upstairs living room. So let's plug this in. And we're reading 800, looks like the low 800s. It's a little higher than it was. And then with the filter in there, it's in the mid 200s, it looks like. Okay, here we are back at Dave's office. So let's see, plug that in there. And we're back in the 13s, 14s, 100s, and I did see 1500 once there. And then we'll do the filter, and we're in the 100s to 200s, it looks like, mid 100s. Yeah, that filter really drops the dirty power a lot. Okay, here we are in the upstairs kitchen. 1700, 1600, 15, 16. So pretty dang high there. And then with the filter, that's the highest it's been. Yeah. And then with the filters, it's in the high 3s. So. Okay, we're now in the downstairs bathroom. And looks like 14, 13, 1400s. Then with the filter, 160, so high 100s. Okay, back to the downstairs kitchen. And we're looking at 15, high 1500s, mid, high 1400s, and then 1500s. And with the filter, 200s, looks like the low 200s. Well, I hope you guys are enjoying watching this video at least half as much as David and I enjoyed going through all the process and filming this video, testing his house. We had a lot of fun doing that. Just to kind of wrap things up, I want to talk a little bit about the findings that we have. By going through the 3 different scenarios where we tested the circuits with different loads put on the inverter, we learned that there seems to be a correlation between how hard the inverter has to work and the ability for the Graham-Stetzer filter to correct the problem. However, there's more than just the solar panels, David's solar system, causing dirty electricity in his house. Other homes that I've tested that have solar power on it, typically on the Stetzer meter, most of the circuits read 300, 400, 500 maybe on the circuits, dirty electricity. This one in Dave's house, as you saw, most of the circuits read 1300, 14, 1500 on the Graham-Stetzer meter. So experts in the past have told me that if the filter won't correct the dirty electricity on a circuit and bring it down below 50, typically that means that there's an electrical problem. And David talked about that. You saw earlier in the video that he's feeling the same way, and that he's going to get an electrician out and make sure his house doesn't have any ground issues or other kinds of electrical problems that could be causing that dirty electricity. We tested, just as out of curiosity, before we started filming the video, when
we stuck the Graham-Stetzer meter in there. We started testing some of the circuits, and we saw how high they were. David called a few of his neighbors, and we ran over. We wanted to make sure it wasn't coming that high from the power grid. And so we went to a couple of his neighbors and tested their electricity, and the one next door neighbor right next to him, his read 50 before we even stuck the filter in it. So when we stuck the filter in it, it dropped it down to 23, well in the safe range. And so we know that dirty electricity coming over from the power company is not causing those high things. So there's something in David's setup that's causing all that dirty electricity. And so as David goes through the process in the future of getting an electrician out, he said that I could be there to do a follow-up video. So we'll be able to show you the process he has to go through of actually correcting the problem. Also, there's something, it's called the perfect power solution, or anyway, I'll put a link to it below this video. There's a unit that you can get that's designed specifically for homes with solar systems, and they have other units for homes that don't have solar systems, that instead of having to put a filter in every one of your circuits if you've got problems with all of your circuits, it's a whole house unit that you wire into the breaker box. And so we're going to get one of those units too, and we're going to put that in David's house and see how that affects the whole thing. So we'll do that in a future video too. First, we want to see if there's any electrical problems and correct that. So this series of videos should be pretty interesting to you. So in closing, I want to play one of these clips from David and I together, kind of wrapping up the video. Thanks for watching this video, and we hope you got some value at it. Remember, if you did get some value, please smash that like button. That really helps us. So here's a clip with me and Dave.
If you're interested in preparedness, I do have a YouTube channel also, and that's, just go to LDSprepper.com, and that'll take you right to my YouTube channel, and you can see I have about 500 videos on preparedness, self-defense, off-grid, and so forth. So I'm excited to go into the next step of creating a healthy environment with getting clean power and improving my EMF signals here in the house and so forth. So take a look at me over there at LDSprepper.com for any preparedness videos on emergency preparedness, water filtration, gardening, and so forth.
And just one more plug on his website. On his website he has some links to the solar, what is it, a portable solar power generator.
Portable solar generator.
Yeah, like I did with your son, I did a test video a little while ago on that unit. And then he's also got, which I bought through his website, he's got heirloom seeds.
Right.
So anyway, all kinds of preparedness stuff that you'll find on both his website and his YouTube channel. So we'll call that a wrap.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys. See you in the next video.